The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, a game considered to be the greatest video game of all time by many people. However, does it have the best water system of all time? Does it make sense? If you watch my Mario 64 video on this topic, you probably know by now that Mario 64's water system is pretty crazy. But does water in Ocarina of Time make any sense either? That is the topic of today's video. And I gotta say, there's a lot more to it than you think. Because there are two separate Hyrules to think about while doing this. Child Hyrule and the Adult Link Hyrule. Also like Mario 64, I'll be doing another sick diagram at the end, summarizing everything. So stay tuned for that. But without further delay, let's get started. So let's start from the beginning, the origin of the water flow. Where does it all begin? It appears to start from Zoras Fountain. You know, the place where Jabu Jabu is. Looking into this reservoir's bottom, there are no notable holes or passageways of sorts where water can feed into the reservoir. However, there is this massive dam-like structure to the side here, and using a moon gem code we can see that there is indeed an origin to Hyrule's water system, which is this river. The water from the river, however, is probably severely limited because the dam blocks its complete flow. However, I think it's safe to assume some Zoras slacked off during the building of this dam, and there are a few small cracks here and there that could make the water quietly seep through, maintaining the water level and the continuous flow throughout the rest of Hyrule. Of course, this is all in the child timeline of the game, when the Zoras are mostly just vibing. Actually, I made a little bit of a mistake. It appears that there is no water in this Zora domain section behind the dam in the child timeline. So that was kind of a boo-boo on my part. I don't know how this could work. I guess it gets it from another source. But yeah. But in the adult timeline, according to the game, they're all trapped in the ice cavern. Now, does the ice cavern have to do with any of this? Probably not. It's just a cavern with ice. And I don't think it has a significant impact on the flow of water in Hyrule. If you guys think otherwise, let me know your thoughts in the comments. In the adult timeline, Zora's domain is completely frozen over, but the fountain isn't. But it doesn't make sense that this water from the fountain is flowing into the domain and somehow magically becomes frozen once we enter the domain. How? My only guess here is that the interior is so much cooler that it just immediately freezes the water. To be fair, it doesn't have to be much cooler, judging by the fact the fountain water is already pretty cool. But whatever, you get my point. In both timelines, there is this waterfall behind this gate, which leads to the entrance of the domain itself, and brings us to the next part of the water system, being the Zora River. Not much to say here, honestly. It's just water flowing, having a good time. There's this one part which splits apart and comes back together, called a bifurcation. That's pretty cool. Someone also lost hella 5 rupees while swimming down, because Link is having a great time picking all this moolah up. Exiting Zora's domain, we enter Hyrule Field, which continues the river flow for a short period of time. Another bifurcation occurs here, one part heading towards the castle, and one part heading towards this little area which just collects the water. This part doesn't make any sense because surely over the course of time, the water level would rise in the pond area, or maybe it could even extend the pool into a small river, but no, it just chills here. Maybe it actually was growing over time, and while we're playing the game as a child, it just happened to be at this state. Actually, I take that back, because it's legit the exact same in Adult Link's era. What a fail by Nintendo. Going back to the split going toward the castle, it essentially wraps around to create a convenient moat, while some of it heads into the castle. This is most likely connected to this opening in front of the actual castle, creating yet another moat. Dang, Zelda is really protected. 2 moats? Kinda overkill if you ask me. This wraps around to this area where you find Talon sleeping and yet into another gate thingy. There's also this continuous flow of water where you sneak in, but it doesn't make any sense how it can continuously flow because there's only a limited supply, so that's a mystery. Actually, looking back at it, there is a continuous flow of water coming from that tiny waterfall. That probably maybe connects to that water that was leading into that gate thingy near Talon. But I don't know. It could just spawn out of midair, but realistically that's probably the most probable response to that.
The water that flows into there wraps around to where this water is falling, which flows into another water gate thingy and leads to this stream found in Gerudo Valley. This river flows into Lake Hylia, the final destination of Ocarina of Time's water system. To be honest, this water system is extremely understandable and makes sense. Besides a couple weird things like the flowy sneak-in water and the rapid icing in Zora's domain, Nintendo seemed to have learned a thing or two from Mario 64. Until we look at the adult timeline. Nintendo completely overlooked this. Everything is the same as the child timeline until we get to this part. The part where water goes into the castle. Where in the castle? All I see is a wasteland of Redeads and Ganon's castle, which is, by the way, hovering over lava instead of water. Literally the exact opposite thing. There's no evidence that this area has water, and look at this. It still flows out. Oh, Nintendo, you fumbled with this one. This is way worse than the Mario 64 pillar theory. At least I had a wacky idea for that, but for this, no shot. Anyway, it also ends off the same, flowing through Gerudo Valley and ending off in Lake Hylia. So now that we have addressed the adult timeline blunder, let's look into Lake Hylia a bit more deeply. How does it maintain a steady level? Well, this could be connected to the water temple. You can actually drain the water level in Lake Hylia temporarily to complete the water temple before it rises back up again. This water raising and draining mechanic can manipulate how water levels could remain constant in Lake Hylia. This system isn't magic and can be seen in real life. One example are locks in canals. These locks are used to raise and descend boats to make them reach higher or lower bodies of water. This is done by raising or decreasing the water level by locking or unlocking the water flow. There are some other examples, but this one relates to the topic the most. So this rising and draining mechanic is the reason behind why it maintains a steady water level. So that pretty much settles it for the main water system of Ocarina of Time. But there are many additional water features separate from this one, which I'd like to go over real quick. First off, there's these water warps located twice throughout Hyrule, one going from the Lost Woods to Zora's River, and another going from Zora's Domain to Lake Hylia. The explanation for this is pretty simple. A tunnel of water connecting both ends, that's literally all there is to it. As for water in dungeons beside the water temple, like the Forest Temple and the bottom of the well, they're probably placed there by Ganon or something to make it harder for Link to traverse the dungeons, but Link is like a legend himself, so it's not a problem. Now let's talk about the grottos, another fascinating feature of Ocarina of Time's world. These hidden caves, which you often discover by bombing the ground or playing the Song of Storms, are likely a result of natural processes similar to real-world karst topography. In real life, underground caves are formed when water dissolves soft rock, like limestone, over time, eventually causing the ground above to collapse and create sinkholes. This is pretty similar to how you reveal these grottos in the game. They're hidden chambers beneath the surface, and when you find weak spots or cracks in the ground, you open up access to these underground spaces. Many of them contain water or fairy fountains, which could be compared to natural springs found in caves formed by karst processes. So if you think about it, these grottos actually make a lot of sense geologically. They're just like natural caves or sinkholes that get exposed over time due to water erosion. That's kind of a bit off topic, but you gotta admit, it was pretty cool to learn. There's quite a few other random water areas here and there, but they're all added probably for aesthetics or other miscellaneous reasons, so we don't need to go over that.
Actually, I did forget something else. In Kokiri Forest, there's like this waterfall, this tiny waterfall which flows down to this area where you can jump on the little platforms. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really know exactly where this comes from. It's just coming straight through the wall. It might come from the area where you dive under and go to Zora's River, but when I checked there was no notable places where the water could go through, so I'm not sure about that.
So I think that pretty much does it. That's the entire water system in Ocarina of Time. And just as I promised, here's the diagram which summarizes everything. The water system flows from Zoras Fountain through Zora's River into Hyrule Field, into the castle, throughout Gerudo Valley, and finally into Lake Hylia, forming a natural cycle that connects the major water bodies and regions of Hyrule. There's a lot of other things we went over like grottos and water warps, which I tried my best to incorporate here. With that out of the way, this video is coming to a close. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you like this water series thing that I'm doing, and let me know what I should do next. Take care and catch you guys later.